For 13 days in October 1962, the human race lived on borrowed time, with the fate of billions decided in quiet, smoke-filled rooms. This wasn't just a diplomatic dispute, it was a stare-down with the apocalypse, where one wrong move could have ended civilization. This is the story of the Cuban Missile Crisis, the closest we ever came to midnight. It begins on October 14th, when an American U-2 spy plane, piloted by Major Richard Hazer, flew silently over the jungles of western Cuba. In just 6 minutes over the target area, he snapped 928 photographs, revealing something terrifying. CIA analysts discovered these weren't just supply depots, but launch sites for Soviet SS-4 Sandal medium-range ballistic missiles. These nuclear weapons, 70 times more powerful than Hiroshima, could incinerate Washington, D.C. in less than 15 minutes. President Kennedy was informed on October 16th, immediately convening ExComm, the executive committee of the National Security Council. The Joint Chiefs pushed for an immediate airstrike and invasion, believing war was inevitable. But Kennedy knew striking the missiles would kill Soviet technicians, forcing Khrushchev to retaliate and sparking World War III. For a week, the administration kept the secret, with Kennedy maintaining his public schedule while planning for Armageddon. On October 22nd, he addressed the nation, announcing a naval ring of steel around Cuba. He carefully avoided the word blockade, as under international law, that is an act of war. The world held its breath as 18 Soviet ships steamed directly toward the U.S. Navy line, with orders to fire if they crossed. On October 24th, the Soviet ships stopped and turned back. Secretary of State Dean Rusk famously whispered, "We're eyeball to eyeball," and I think the other fellow just blinked. But the crisis wasn't over. October 27th, Black Saturday, became the darkest day in human history. Over Cuba, a U-2 piloted by Major Rudolph Anderson was shot down by an SA-2 guideline missile, killing him. Kennedy, against his general's wishes, pulled back, canceling the counterstrike that could have started the war. Meanwhile, deep in the Caribbean, the Soviet submarine V-59 was being hunted by U.S. destroyers signaling depth charges. Inside, with air conditioning failed and carbon dioxide rising, Captain Valentin Savitsky believed war had begun and screamed to arm a 10-kiloton nuclear torpedo. But on a Soviet sub, a nuclear launch required authorization from 3 officers, and 1 man refused. Vasili Arkhipov, the flotilla commander, remained calm amidst the panic, refusing to authorize the launch and convincing the captain to surface instead. A single man's refusal is the only reason you are alive to watch this video today. While the military prepared, a secret channel opened. Robert Kennedy met with Soviet Ambassador Anatoly Dobrinin. They cut a deal. Soviets would withdraw missiles from Cuba, and the U.S. would pledge never to invade the island. Privately, the U.S. agreed to quietly dismantle their obsolete Jupiter nuclear missiles in Turkey months later. On October 28th, Radio Moscow announced the withdrawal, and the sun rose on a world that was still intact. The Cuban Missile Crisis proved that in the nuclear age, there is no such thing as total victory, only survival. It led to the installation of the Moscow-Washington hotline, ensuring a misunderstanding never again brings us this close to the void. History is often made by the loud bang of a gun, but in October 1962, humanity was saved by the things that didn't happen. The trigger not pulled, the torpedo not fired, the silence that saved the world.